Welcome to Let's Talk with Danielle podcast, and I'm your host. I'm so happy you guys are able to join me tonight. I'm excited because I have a wonderful, amazing guest named Pat Pilla, and she is a coach. She's a lot of things to a lot of people, and I can't wait for you guys to meet her and to get to know her and all the great things that she is doing. So, give me just 1 second. I'm gonna bring her on. All right. Okay. Pat,
Hi, Danielle.
hi. I'm
How
so
are
happy
you?
you made
I'm
it.
so happy I'm here with you. Great.
Yeah. So go ahead and let them know a little bit about you being a coach and, you know, kind of like a little backstory on how you even became a coach and why this is something that you're so passionate about doing.
Well, God had put me in totally different atmospheres all my life. I started as a coach at the end of basically my career. You know what I mean? I wasn't that to begin with. I was a secretary, a deputy clerk for a village, and they opened up my own business. And then from there, I went to coaching. And
Hmm.
I love it because I always love people. And I love to share the story about God and how much He did in my life and how much He could do in others' lives. And I just kept on going for it. And with all the coaching that I did do towards the end, it was like I wrote a book about it also about people who have a lot of, what do you call it, like a lot of delays, a lot of
Lace.
uncertainty, and yeah, very bad with their own self. So I wrote a book called Overcoming Your Evil Twin. Is your mind playing tricks on you? Because we don't talk right about ourselves, and we're always listening to that little thing over here, the evil one that says, no, you can't, no, you can't. And you got to listen to the other side that says, yes, you can, yes, you can. So, and believing the trust in God that He will bring you forth is one thing that I believe in totally. So I just want to express that it is true that whatever you want in life, just go for it, because we are always afraid of failure. But at the end of the day, that's when we learn and we do. And whatever we're doing as far as coaching and helping people, like you do, Danielle, I mean, you have basically, you're on this podcast helping so many people and they're seeing the light that you're shining. So I feel that when we shine our own light, we're helping so many people. Even if it's one person that connects with you, it's amazing. So
That's
that's what came from my whole careers of going through all this.
mhm.
I just love people and love to help out, and I believe service is number one.
That's good that you say service is number one, giving back, loving on people, and pouring into people. And it's amazing that, we're even on this topic about, because you mentioned something about different personalities and our evil twin and self love too. That's the first thing I thought about too. I don't know why when you were speaking, I was thinking about self love. A lot of times we don't know how to love ourselves. Maybe
Right.
it's because of trauma. Maybe it's not because of trauma. Maybe it's because maybe the examples that we've seen in the past, or maybe some of the experiences that we've experienced. But it's amazing that we're even talking about all these great things because today is National Women's Day, right? You had you had reminded me of that, and I'm like, so amazing that we're having this podcast on this day. And so, I'm really excited about what we're doing and what we're going to be talking about today. And we had a little storm here, so you guys got to excuse me. In the background, it's kind of startled here because we have the winds are going, the cars are blowing here in Texas. So we'll be okay. We're still going to have this podcast.
That's right. We're still going to do it.
Now, the book that you wrote, when you decided to write this book, where did it come? Like, what really prompted you to write this book?
It prompted me from all the people that I coached along the way, no matter how, if they were millionaires or they lived in the street, because I coached all the way up and down, no matter who they were. And every single person had limiting beliefs about themselves. And that's what stopped them from progressing. They were afraid of fear, and they were afraid that they weren't enough. And I have to stress enough that they are enough. We are enough. And don't worry about anybody else. I always say, put the blinders on and go straight ahead and do what you need to do. Because if you're in the service business, which that's what I was in, and that's what all these other people were in, when you're in the service business, you can't do wrong. you're bound to help somebody along the way. You know what I mean? So we're not doing it in a mean way. We're not, even though somebody will come on and say, "Oh, what do you think you're doing? You don't even know what you're doing." Don't listen to those people, because I coached people that they were wonderful. They had all these followers and they were so wonderful with their stories and all that. And at the end of the day, if one person said, "Who do you think you are to talk like that?" And then all of a sudden they would stop cold for months, and like they would just be paralyzed. And I said, "No, no, no, we can't do that. That's ridiculous. Don't listen to anybody. Just forge ahead. You're not doing anything wrong but helping people." And
It's
so right
amazing
now,
you
we
say
spoke
that.
about limiting beliefs.
Mhm.
I thought it was great. And I love the picture that I picked for it, because it is so true. Because you close your ears, stop listening to the other side, because that other side can really paralyze you. And I don't think that it's fair for us alone, to be like that. So God showed me all the way around that I should not fear. And the Bible teaches that over and over and over again. Do not fear, do not fear. I'm always with you. I'm always with you. So if he's with us, who's going to be against us, really?
That's
So
good. I
right.
like that. You like, because the thing about it with fear, I had to actually overcome that. And every day of my life, I have to constantly make a choice to believe what God is saying about me, because sometimes the enemy, with different people, the enemy fight you certain ways.
Right.
With me, it was always the fear of failure, or being, let me use an example. Years ago, many years ago, I had a baby and I was very young. Now that wasn't my plan. My plan was to go to Spelman and get into like the entertainment, like movies, writing, producing, um, theater, things like that. That was my dream. But I had a baby early, had a relationship from high school. And so a lot of my goals, a lot of my plans, I just kind of sat on them. And I didn't really believe that, now that I was a mom, I was a little bit kind of like, okay, I'm a young mom. But all my life, I had to, fight against negative words like, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that, and you can't do this because you were this, or ashamed of your past. But you know what? It took me to in my late 20s to overcome those fears and kind of step into my own. But it took God. Like my relationship with God had to, like when I really discovered God, I always was raised up in church. I always had a relationship with God, you know, but I didn't have a personal relationship with God. So, but when I came into this knowing, like, wait a minute, God loves me, like he really, like he is like chasing after me, even when I didn't always do the right things, didn't always make the right decisions. It's like he really wants to love me. He really wants to. And then he began to start showing me how special I was and how beautiful I was. And I had to hear it from God. So that's what made me really kind of get out of that mindset of that I can't do this, or I made so many mistakes and I'm not really qualified for this.
Right.
I was
Right.
like, no, I called you just like I did Moses. How many people in the Bible were not so called qualified?
Most of them. Most of them. Right. Most of them were.
Yes. So it's just amazing, how God will take you from one level. And for you, um, I want to ask you this question. What did you go through in your life that made you kind of mature into that place where you like, I know this is very important for me to fight against fear and teach other people and pour into other people to get rid of fear and the negative thinking.
Yeah, when I was younger, I was very heavy, and took me a long time to adjust that, because I was always bullied. I always was like, it was horrible in school. My adolescent life was like really hard, and people with, kids are so mean like they are today, which is ridiculous. But anyway, then all of a sudden I had this click in my head, and in my 50s, I ended up losing like over 200 pounds,
Wow.
and I went down so far. And then, like, I didn't change my personality, but people treated me differently. And I
Hmm.
did not like that at all, because I was the same person. And yet because I'm in a different body now, you think that it's different, and I wasn't. And that really annoyed me, but I had to get over that. So I wanted to coach people to know that you are you no matter what. And your integrity and your character means 100%, you know? And that's what you got to stick by. And God showed me the way that no matter what, I'm on your side. And no matter what they say, what they do. And I always talk to people with a lot of integrity and
Yes.
feeling. Like you say I feel them. You know, I actually feel people when I talk to them. I cried with them. We laughed with them. You know what I mean? And that's what I do. I'm like a sap, and I would talk to them as long as they were okay. They had to hang up with me. They had to be okay. If they weren't okay, we were on the phone. And I kept on going through my journey like that. And even when I had my business, it was a baking business, believe it or not.
Yes.
And I opened up a baking business after I lost the weight, and it was these cheesecake balls called Chobanites. And I did that, and it was like little. I called them little portion control. You know, you could have your cheesecake too. And even over there, we had people help in the kitchen because I had to do a commercial kitchen. They were from prison. Some of them were from prison, and they're just getting out. I wanted to help them so much. I used to say, if you want your product on here, I'll put it on my website. We'll sell it. You know, I always wanted to help somebody else who was down and out because I know the feeling. See, when you're treated like that when you're younger, you know the feeling of how you are. You know,
Yes.
like especially with you when you had a young child at a young age, and it
Mhm.
was like you must have been spoken about, and you must have been feeling like, oh, the exclusive. You know what I mean? And it's like it's not good, and you want to come out of that. So, and I think we gravitate towards people that understand us more, that we now we can do anything. If you can have that child at that young age, honey, you could do anything now because that's the most
Yes.
important job in life is raising a child, right? So I felt like this, and I always decided the biggest mistake was like my biggest fear was when I opened up my business and they didn't get the product because it had to be refrigerated, it had to be all packaged, and I had to ship it out all over the United
Mhm.
States. My first order, God took that fear out of me
Wow.
because the UPS driver or FedEx driver took it to somebody else's house in Virginia instead of the house it's supposed to go to. So my first order was a disaster, and it happened to be my pastor's wife who had the order.
Oh my God. I bet you were like, I can't believe you didn't want to look unprofessional.
Right,
These thoughts.
right. So, and my biggest fear was squashed at that minute because I said, you know what? People don't care. She says, don't worry, Pat. Send it to me when you can. And not only did I send her that, I sent her 2 boxes of it. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So that's what you do. So there's no stuff to be. We fear ourselves for being inadequate, and we're not inadequate because people make mistakes all the time. And I just feel like God just showed me that the first order, and as soon as I put my website on, that's when she ordered. So it was the first order, the first day, and that was the end of that. So yeah, I think we can do anything we want. And people always talk about time. They don't have time. We all get 24 hours, you
Mhm.
know, and it's what you do with your time that's important, you know. So I that's why they call me the no crap coach because you weren't getting back on the phone with me unless you do what you were supposed to do.
Wow. I like that. Accountability.
Exactly.
Some of the things that you teach when you're coaching, what are some of the things, the basic things that you might um
Well, the basic things that I was teaching was you come as you are. I don't want to hear all kinds of stories from you. This is a private room. You come as you are. It's not going anywhere but here. And they love that. They love especially the men. The men love the fact they can come to my room and they can say whatever they wanted and there was no judgment whatsoever. And we work through it. Because if you can't work through your problems as you're going along, you're never going to succeed because that's always going to pull you back by being, that opposition. It's not good, and that's where the limiting beliefs came from, that they couldn't do anything.
you're right. You're definitely right. And that, it's amazing because my kids that I have, we talk about, I make it very important since I did go through um, fear and dealing with anxiety. There was a season I went through anxiety because, I went through I had some tragic moments. I do share them very, trust me, a lot of times I make posts, I'm talking about some personal issues only because of God.
Right.
I'm so private. I'm really private. Like I'm really private, but it's like the things that I experienced and I saw the hand of God move in my life. He was like somebody else out there. maybe going through that right now.
Right.
So they need to hear you talk about anxiety. They need to know, like, hey, yes, I'm a Christian, but it doesn't, just because I'm a Christian doesn't necessarily mean that my walk in the beginning of walking with God was perfect. It wasn't.
We're never perfect.
Yeah, boundaries. I have to learn boundaries, how important my time was. Um, I love people. I try to, be kind to people and love on people, but sometimes it'll mess up with your boundaries. Like some people will see that, oh, she doesn't have any boundaries.
Right.
Cross these boundaries. So God's like, okay, you can love them, but make sure you create boundaries.
Boundaries. Yes. Yes, definitely.
You know,
Boundaries are very important because they'll override you. People go crazy on you. It's not really out there. So boundaries are very, very important to stress that out from the beginning. Because like I said, like you said, we're not perfect, and we're never going to be perfect because we're in an imperfect world. We're imperfect people, so we're never going to get there. So why try to be perfect? And I find that I always think of that story with Julia Child when she was cutting that chicken, and she dropped it on the floor. She cut her hand or whatever, and that was her most viewed show that she ever had, and that's what made her career zoom because of something stupid like that and the mistake that she made. So a lot of mistakes we made, we learn from them, we grow from them. And you know what else? We are human.
yeah,
And people identify with that. They don't want to identify with all the big, the golden tickets where, oh, look how she's so great and she's so good. No, they want to hear the down and dirty stuff,
yes,
right? Because they want to get, because there's so many people that are hurting. They want to feel that you know what's going on and that you can understand them. And I think your story is their passageway to say, wow, she went through that. I can go through this. I'll be fine.
I'm glad you said that too, because when I was going through, I was always looking for people to, I was looking for someone that had somewhat of my story, or even if it wasn't my story, that they went through something and how do they get to the other side. I learned that sometimes, the other side means that you're getting ready, it only teaches you and equip you for the next challenge that you're going to probably have to face,
Right.
another year from now or another season in your life.
Right.
So, but I was looking for people who was real, like real, like you were
Yeah.
saying, people.
Because there's so much fakeness out there. Like, I don't trust anybody on the internet because they're all liars. They all promote themselves like who they think they are, and they're the best of the best of the best. No, you're not. And I just see it through their face, and I says, no, this is not right. And I try to be the best I can and be honest as far as I can go. I don't want to tell everybody everything. You know what I mean? You can't do that either. But you want to be sympathetic to people who do have problems and do have a real sincere thing going on with them, and that sometimes you can talk them off of jumping off the bridge. You know what I mean? So you really got to be patient with people and understand where they're coming from. If you can't understand it, then you can't help anybody.
You'd be surprised. When during COVID and going through a season, I was looking up a lot of. There were so many young adults and even teenagers, but a lot of the young adults were going through a season where they were committing suicide. The
Yes.
numbers were climbing high and high, and a lot of them had a lot of them were high achievers.
Yes.
They had it wasn't that they had a busted life, or a lot of these had financial things, but that just go to show you finances or what you think you made it doesn't really matter on what's going on in the inside of you, what's going on with
Exactly.
your thoughts.
Exactly.
And
Like I told you, I coach the millionaires and I coach people living on the beach. I'm telling you, they have the same story. You have the same way in here. Happiness is like, to me, a fraud. You can't be happy 24/7. Okay, let's face it. And people that strive to be happy all the time make themselves more stressed and anxiety because they're trying to get to that goal. And the only happiness I have, tell you the truth, is that God is in my soul. That's the only peace that I get, is that I know no matter what, I'm never alone. I'm never alone. So that's the peace that I have, no matter what happens. And I just wish everybody else would feel that same peace. And they're going outwards to find it. And meanwhile, it's been here all the time. God left a little space in us for him to come in.
yeah.
and you can't fill that void except with God. So to me, that's where my whole core is.
How can we purchase your book?
Amazon.
Go. Okay,
You
great.
can go on Amazon and buy it. Yeah, it's not that bad. I think it's like $2, something like that. It's not
That's
not
okay.
expensive.
We definitely you definitely we want to make sure those who are watching, and hey everybody, I see you guys are watching and I see the views and I see some likes.
Oh, good.
Have any comments, you can jump right in and
Yeah, good, good.
mhm. You guys can jump in and comment and share some things that you might want to share. We will definitely get back to it. Pat, you can come back to this link and look at the comments if we have them, and just jump right in there and
Any
answer.
questions they want to ask now, whatever, we're here to help, you know.
Yes, and with the suicide and self-love, I was hearing someone
Yes.
talk about it was a young lady who was talking about it was on my Facebook post, and she is a great woman of God. She shared something, and she was saying something about, I might not be quoting it properly, verbatim, but she said something about there's a lot of people that they can't either. I think either she said either they the reason why they can't love other people right is because a lot of times they're dealing with self-love, like
Right.
like they're not able to love themselves, or
Right.
it's always something. And I said something on that lines where when you've gone through something where you may have been ashamed, or you experienced some tragic things that have happened to you, whether it's abuse, whether it's or being bullied, sometimes it can build some things up in your mind, and you can carry it. If it happened in your childhood or your teenage years, it can carry over for some
Right.
people,
Right.
and it can get bigger. And so a lot of times when you look at yourself, or you look at the things, the way you do this, or the way I talk, or wow, I'm so awkward, I'm so weird, you say all these words, like you said earlier. I think you said words are very important. Maybe, I don't know if you said that or not. I think you said that, right? Did you say something like that? But words are so powerful,
Yeah.
and what we think is so powerful. How can we tell those who might be watching, that might be struggling with, when they look at themselves and they really don't like what they see? What kind of advice or affirmation that we can share with them?
I have a little test that I do with people, and I have them take a piece of paper, and I make them write on one side of the paper what's going on, what happened in your life that's really devastated you. Write like 1 to 5 things or 3 things, whatever. Make it small so this way you can do it, and then write the story that you're telling yourself. Like you said, I'm not pretty enough. I'm not good enough. I can't do this. I can't do that. Whatever it is, what happened to you in childhood. It could have been abuse, whatever it was, because I was verbally abused when I was a child too. So it's like, what do you write there on that side? And then on the right side, write what the true story is. Like, what is really the story? Like, and they could write the story that it only happened once. So why are you bringing this up your whole life? You know? And then at the end, I would tell them to write that story again, and then put in what's really happening. And their eyes open up, like to say, wow, you're right. It's not like it was before. Why am I still acting like this? Why am I still feeling like this? And then burn the paper after that. Burn that piece of paper and get rid of it and say, that's it. I'm starting over. Because you can't walk with that crutch on your shoulder, because that'll weigh you down so much you'll never get anywhere. And sometimes I have trouble breaking through. I have a lot of trouble breaking through with some of those people because they want to keep it whole. They're comfortable with it. You get comfortable in your crap, and
Mm-hmm.
you want to
Mm-hmm.
step out of there because you're afraid, well, what happens if I step out? But if you just step out a little at a time, you'll see, wow, this is okay. I'm going to do another foot. I'm going to do another foot. Put one foot in front of the other, and then you see what's going to happen. But if you don't try, you're never going to find out. So that's what I think. I think that you have to start saying, what is the story that you've been telling yourselves all these years? And then come back and say, okay, really, what is the truth? Because you can have the same family, and you can have abuse with all the kids in the family, like two brothers. And why did one become very successful and the other one become an alcoholic or a drug addict? Why did that happen? They both were the same family, but one decided to move on and grow, and the other one decided to be comfortable in his own crap and believe what was going on. And
That,
God has a big thing in that too, because God really, if you pray and pray, God really show you the way. Like He'll really show you the truth, or He'll change those other people towards you. Like I pray more for the people, please change their heart, or change my heart to them,
mm-hmm.
or let them change their heart to me. And I saw that with my own family, and at the end, my father was going to die, and I was helping him and helping him at the end and stuff like that. But it's like, God showed me a different side. So it was a peaceful relationship at the end. It wasn't I never had a hard relationship, but I was also abused verbally. You know what I mean? So I wasn't beat up or anything like that. But sometimes, like you said, words are worse. I rather somebody slap me to death than say something big, because that remains in your head. That's why God always says, "Watch your words. Watch what comes out of your mouth." It's like
Yeah.
a sword, right? It's like a sword. So that is really tough, and that hurts to the end, because that always, even until today, I'll still remember some of the things that happened way back when, you know. But it doesn't phase me anymore. I forget about it and I move on.
Yes. Sometimes I think a lot of times we can have misplaced trauma or misplaced anger, and those who, because one thing I can say, I used to keep things inside,
Hmm.
and people say, "Oh, she's so nice. And I am nice."
Right.
But if I am dealing with a person that's really close to me, or a best friend or somebody, and if I felt like they harm me or whatever, I wouldn't confront them right away. I wouldn't do that. And even though the situation might not be a big thing, but to me it hurt my feelings, or so I
Right.
just keep it in. And then if something else happened, it'll
That's,
build.
that's what happens.
And then the nice one, will blow up and
Right.
say things like, "You don't care about," just, you know,
And they say you're out of control.
look at it.
Danielle, you're out of control. What's the matter with you?
So God had to really tell me, it's like, okay, to keep from doing that, you have to start communicating. You
Right.
have to start sharing, um, your feelings when people cross the line, or when you feel like you're hurt by them, or you feel like you just don't feel like you're being treated fairly.
Right. Exactly.
You got to speak up for yourself. And sometimes I would
Exactly.
tend to not do that.
Right. I just went through that this week. I just went through that. So, and I understand you, because if I ever hurt somebody, I want them to tell me, because I want to know. Because God forbid, I hurt you, I would feel terrible. Why are
Mhm.
you walking with that kind of stuff going on with that? We can just clear the air right away. You know what I mean? So, yeah, communication is very, very important, especially if you're loving a friend. If there's a friend there, that's important. You want to have your friendship
Mhm.
remain.
You
So,
gotta
yeah,
be
that
careful
is
with
that
that.
is vital.
Because for those who do get angry, they have to be careful with that type of behavior, or that type of style, the way you handle things, because some people are very aggressive, and they can be really angry and be displaced anger, and so they it could become then you could become abusive
Right.
person. Uh,
Right.
so I know that all too well. Like I said, if I'm in a relationship with a person that is abusive, verbally abusive or whatever, sometimes it can rub off on you, because you're in that with them.
Right.
You're dealing with their crap. It becomes your crap too.
Right. And you're being manipulated. You don't even know it.
Yes, yes. So and I mentioned all of that to say, just because since we're talking about abuse and words and all that kind of stuff, it all goes hand in hand, because even though if you're in a situation like that, and you're dealing with people like that, or if you're the person that is behaving that way, you have to recognize that, because you
Right.
definitely want to work on that um characteristic trait, or because it could be toxic if you don't deal
Oh,
with it.
it's totally toxic. But the whole thing is that the human condition, we never want to be wrong. And that's our problem, right? We never want to be, we want to be the right ones. I told you, and I told this one, and I told that one, and they're not getting away with nothing. But at the end of the day, sometimes you got to just suck it up, you know?
And
And
yeah,
say, you got to eat it up and just say, this is it. I did it, and that's it. Let's move on, you know?
that's why I'm like, when it come down to um you know once I actually find Boaz, or well, actually when he find me, I pray that that I think, that's what I'm working on as a single person. I pray that when I get into those relationships that, all the things that I'm working on, um, in my personality, my walk with God, and the things that I do see in myself that needs, um, I can work on and be better at.
Right.
I'm telling God, I'm like, okay, God, what I don't want to do is when I get with this person, because I've been single for a while now. I mean, I kind of like my
Right.
ways. So I don't know how it's going to be once I, get with this person.
Right.
So when things come up, how am I going to act? I want to be, hopefully, I will be the nice person that you see when a situation come about, and I'm able to communicate like I'm saying right now. So I'm like, Lord, I don't want to be embarrassed and lose my cool. And God is like, don't worry about it when work on you now. When it happens, you'll see what you need to do.
Right. We're hoping he's there to pull the reins in, you know?
Okay, yeah. But I mean, the good thing about, like, when you were talking about in your book, what are some of the chapters or some of the things that you kind of go into when you're
Let me see. Let me see some of the chapters. Escaping the self, shelf. Because my father used to tell me, you're not going to meet nobody. You're going to be a person on the shelf. You're going to be on the shelf like a knick-knack. Nobody's gonna, that's what he used to say to me. And that held to me all my life, Like I was just a piece of crap on a shelf and nobody wanted me. And
ooh,
so
that's
I started with that. And then I started living your life purpose because we all have a purpose. If you don't think you have a purpose, that's where you get into trouble because we think we're nothing. And God gave us something for a reason. And
ooh,
I always say that God gave you a gift. And if you're not using it, you're embarrassing God because I don't care what you do. People say, oh, I don't know what I do. I'm not this. I'm not that. I can't bake. I can't cook. I can't do anything. I don't know what to do. You have something to do. God gave you something to do. He just put you here for nothing. You know what I mean? So I always did living your life on purpose, and then comparison. Like I said, comparison yourself to self-doubt and your evil twin. Like what's going on with the comparison there? And then it's your choice. God gave us a choice to what we need to do. And thank God he gave us a choice because if we didn't have a choice, we'd be really, in craps creek. Um, it's just so funny because that to me is vital. Having a choice is vital because when somebody tells you no, then you go back and you don't want to do anything. You say it's no, and you feel like no, I don't want that. No, I want true, right? I want to be able to do it. But if you make the choice to say no, I'm not going to do that today. I'll do it tomorrow. I'm not going to do that. It gives you power when you make the choice. It gives you the power and it's so really true. And respect yourself because if you can't respect yourself, then you're not going to respect nobody's going to respect you. And
wow.
respect is very very hard. That's on top of the list. Respect yourself. And then I have a fear, friend or foe. That's one of the chapters. And focus on what you want to do and focus on who you are as a person and don't be buried alive. Don't go into the shiny objects and do everything else but what you're supposed to do.
Ooh.
And that's about what I did in the book. I just kept on writing things like that. And I put a lot of scripture in the book, little tokens of some kind of gratitude and stuff like that. Because we got to really be in gratitude today of everything that happens, whether it's bad or good. We got to accept everything, bad or good, and then work with it. Because let's face it, we're going to get bad. And I always told my daughter growing up, I said, you know what? Remember the good times. God gives you those good times because when
Mhm.
the bad times come, you're going to need them. You're going to need to remember those good times because they always come around. They always come around. So that's very important to me too.
I thank you for sharing that. I really do, because you just don't know when you were talking about one of the topics in your book. I was recently just talking to God about that very thing when you said something about your dad used to say you would be you just thought you were crap on a shelf or you were nothing or you didn't have any value. The reason when I was talking to God, I was actually talking about some things that there are some areas in my life where I want to see um like a lot of fruit or
Yes.
see it bloom and blossom more. I see it blooming, but I don't see a lot of it. So I had this conversation with God. I'm like, okay, God, you gave me a purpose. I know my purpose. And the very thing that I am doing, I don't see a lot of the fruit.
Right.
And did I get this wrong? Do I supposed to be doing this? Did somewhere down the line did our communications get crossed? You know, um, am I valuable in
That's
this
self-doubt
pursuit?
right there. Right? That's self-doubt right there. But you know what? People are looking at you and listening to you, and you don't even know it. You don't even know it. I tell everybody, when you're on Facebook, you're on social media, a lot of people don't even respond. They don't even like anything that you do. But when I go outside and I meet people, oh, Pat, I love your post. You're so encouraging. You're so, and I'm saying, what are you kidding me? I don't even know you're looking at my stuff. Oh, yeah, keep on doing that. Keep on doing it. So you don't even know who you're touching.
You know what? You're so right. I get people that randomly. So I had this conversation with God, right? Saying all that stuff,
Right,
just
right.
doubting and
Mhm.
questioning things. Because when I go to God, I'm like, okay, God, let's get this clear. Like, I don't want to miss anything, God. Like, hey, get me on the right track if I'm off track.
Send
And,
me a signal.
you know, because I do know He talks about fruit, and
Right,
sometimes we can think of a thing and say, oh, I'm in my purpose, and it might not be your purpose. It
right.
might not be something God called you to do. Did God really call you to do it, or did you just want to do it because it looks good? And so I was just kind of getting in alignment with Him and crying out to Him,
Right.
and all of a sudden, the very things I had mentioned to God about, it was like one day, just like what you're saying, people start messaging me, and on Facebook, they're like, "Oh, you inspire me," and then I got someone that had gotten my book, and they messaged me and was like, "I love this book," and I'm like, "Wait a minute." I just had this conversation with God. Okay, God, I see. I see. You're just trying to confirm to me that I'm in the right track. Keep going, keep moving.
Right.
So
And
yeah,
it's not in your time, it's in his time. So you got to be patient with it. Right.
I
Which is
agree.
very hard. Right. It's very hard to do.
I agree. But I
Yeah.
can't wait to get your book. I'm going to get that book. I'm going to order the book, and definitely you'll know because
It's
I
a
know.
very short read. It's not long. It's very short. I want to do like a very short read. This way people can get it right away and just
Mhm.
acknowledge the fact and start learning that they are something. And God didn't make a piece of junk. God don't make junk. And whatever He made, I mean, He made you over the whole entire earth. You know what I mean? We have the whole earth is ours. You know what I mean? We are
Mhm.
over the angels, over the animals, of everything. We have everything here, and yet we feel like we're lack. And we should never feel lack because we got everything right now. Whatever we give is just gravy, right?
Mhm. Since it's National Women's Day, what can you say, or what do you would like to say to the women out there that could be experiencing some self doubt, some
Ugh.
insecurity, not really walking in their purpose?
I find that the suicide rate is an epidemic. It was an epidemic before COVID happened, and now it's even worse. And it's affecting more young girls and women today. And it's the pressure. It's the pressure of what's right is wrong and what's wrong is right.
Mm,
They're being forced to do things that they shouldn't be doing. And it brings them down because at the end of the day, they're disrespecting themselves. So I think they got to live with integrity. They got to live with integrity and say no and be different. We got to be different because if we conform to the world on what they're doing, you're just going to fall into that pot, and it's not going to be good. So with women today, I want them to be strong. I mean, we came a long way. You know what I mean? We came a long way.
yes.
When I see women going down the tubes because they're going the other way, I'm saying to myself, we work so hard to get where we are and now
Hmm.
you do this. It's like, how dare you? I get more mad because how dare you? Look up to yourself with dignity and the queen that you are because God made you special. And you need to have that respect. And that's why I would love to teach women that, because, and I had a women's retreat here at my house one day. And I just love women because I want to teach them to say no and be in their purpose, because a lot of them also, as they get older and the children go out and they're on their own, they're left by themselves and they don't even know who they are.
Ooh,
You know, they've been taking care of so many people, they don't know who they are and they don't know what to do with themselves.
that's amazing. I know it's our time is have come to a little close here, and I don't want to leave because you are speaking so much truth. We do need to speak to those women. There are women that have reached a certain age, and since they had gave all of their love and passion in the kids, and now the kids are grown and moved out, maybe got married. You're right. They're like, I don't know what to do with myself.
Right.
It can be so tragic.
They lost themselves. They
Yes.
lost themselves, right?
Yeah, it's like, who am I now?
Right.
They can feel very alone, because you could be married and feel alone, because you may have, some of those women may have put a lot of their love and passion into the kids instead of so much of it in the marriage,
Right.
and it was never a balance. So now they're like, okay, the kids are gone, and me and you are here, and I don't know
Yeah,
what
I'm stuck. Now I'm stuck with him. What do I do now?
do we do.
True. And I had one woman crying. She was like really in tears. She goes, I don't know what to do. My whole life I just served my husband and my kids, and now there's nothing for me. I says, no, there's plenty for you. We got to find out what it is that your gift is. You know, find your gift, because you got it somewhere in there that you've been hiding for years.
That's good that you actually, get them to think like, hey, okay, maybe you didn't do that years ago, but you know what? It's not too late
Exactly. I
now.
always say, as long as you're breathing, there's hope. You know, that's it. There's always hope as long as you're breathing, and life doesn't end until until the day you stop breathing. So I really love women, and I love the fact that I can help them along the way, because I feel sorry for some of them. They're so lost in this world. Like if I had to be in this world right now, young, I don't know which way I would go. You know what I mean? I'm so happy that my daughter's married and settled and everything, because I'd be terrified of what's going on here. But they need to have a strong bond with each other. And they need, I remember when I was younger and going to church, they always said to me, talk with the older women. They got a lot of wisdom. And sometimes when you're young, you say, oh, what do they know? They're old, they're way
Yeah.
back when they believe that. But I'm telling you now, when I look back, they were loaded with wisdom. They already lived everything that we didn't even see yet. So
Mhm.
I think that's very important too, with young women to be with older women to actually see what's going on and really be enlightened by what they say.
That's good you say that. I was totally, when I think I was 19 years old, I used to run to it was a lady named Sylvia. Her mother used to be in the Holocaust, and she was an older lady. She was probably
Right.
like maybe 80
Hmm.
something, 88, or, and every day she would be in her garden, and I would run to go sit with her, and we would have, we would drink tea together, and I would ask her everything about her life. I knew she had shared so many things about her family and the Holocaust, and I'm like, I couldn't believe I was sitting with someone
Right.
who was a child of a parent that was in the Holocaust.
Right. It's
So
amazing.
yeah, I was so amazed, and I would sit with her. And the younger kids would see me out there, and they were like, "Why would you sit with that old lady all the time?" I said, "Oh, that's my friend." I would call her. I
Yeah,
love her.
you're right.
I love that lady, and she was sweet, and she gave me a lot of wisdom, and I still think about her today. But yeah, I think I was onto something when I knew to sit with certain people that had value, enough information and wisdom to pour into me.
Exactly. Exactly.
Hmm.
That's what we need. Women need women to really pick themselves up and go, because we can really get down the tubes if we allow ourselves to, especially with today's day and age. You know,
Hmm.
and I think people need to see signs, certain signs of people if they're struggling. Sometimes women don't want to talk. They don't want to say anything. They want to keep it in, and we don't know. But sometimes you got to see certain subtle signs that are happening with them that you can really go in there and help them out. Or
Yeah,
just say, let's go out for tea, let's go out for coffee, let's go talk, let's go, that's what they want. Let's go together and let's see. And they open up. People open. I always know once you tell your story, it gives them the whole reins to open up theirs, and the conversation becomes so close and so tight, And it's wonderful. The relationship that you get is wonderful. But you got to talk about your story. You got to talk about the crap that went on in your life. And I know
Yeah.
that people open up because it's just a wonderful thing. Because if you say like I said before, if you say everything is wonderful, 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 no one's going to open up to you. They're sick of hearing you. They want to hear the down and the dirty, and, and it really is good that you do that. It really is good. Like now you had a child when you were very young. You know how many people you can help like that? All those, right? All those young mothers and stuff like that who are going through the struggles now and everything. That's a wonderful thing. You didn't go through that for no reason. Like
I
people go
talk to a lot of young girls
yeah,
that
people go through stuff and they kind of forget it and block it out of their mind. But then you're missing the whole point of why you went through that. Well, you can help somebody else.
I can help you. Yeah, because my main thing when I told my daughter is 27, and my youngest daughter is 22, and I'm sorry, she's 21. My son is 22. I have three, but they're all 20. They're in their 20s. And yeah, and so, but when I used to share to them, I talk with my girls, and I would say, you know, how precious your body is, and to make a decision or a choice to bring a child into the world is very serious. And there were so many things I lacked, I didn't understand, I didn't really know. And I said, don't do, when I share my story, it's a story of, if you have already made this decision, or if you are a teen mom, then I can encourage you in that way too. But also for those young ladies who are not a teen mom yet, I'm trying to share this story to keep you from going in that direction, because it does bring on a set of responsibilities that requires a lot.
And you're not ready for it,
Yes, and a lot of sacrifice, because there's a lot of things I had to sacrifice.
Right.
I didn't get a chance to do. My daughters and my kids got a chance to do certain things I didn't get a chance to.
Right. You lost a lot of the childhood at that point.
Yes, I grew up so fast. Like I would pick up my kids from school, and the ladies would say, you're the mom? Oh. And then when my daughter was in high school, I had one of the security guards say, he said, "You better get to class." I said, "I'm a mom."
Made you feel good. Made you feel
good. But I wanted the teachers to take me serious too.
Yes.
I had to prove a lot when it came down to being firm and being part of my kids. Just because I look younger,
right,
don't mean that I don't value my kids. I don't have my stuff together.
Right. You need a village. You need a village to raise kids today. You need everybody to help you out today. So,
but I am going to wrap up with your book information. Just inbox me that link to Amazon, and then those who come to this video would be able to purchase your book. I'm excited that we had this chat.
Yes, it's been great.
It was great, and I can't wait to read your book, because like I said, when you mentioned those chapters, I really felt like you poured your heart into that book.
It was a lot of my story in there and all that. Yeah, it was. Yep.
It was your heart in there, and I can't wait to get into it and read it. Guys, if you're watching this, make sure you go get her book. The name of it is pull your book up one more time. Yeah, Overcoming Your Evil Twin. So I believe this book is going to change your life. It's going to have some tips and affirmation and some scripture in there that you can apply to your everyday life and be blessed by it.
Yes, it really is. And just remember, my favorite verse in the Bible is, you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. And when I hear that verse, it's like I got the strength to do anything I want to do, and nothing's going to stop me, because Christ is behind that, everything, every way, And it's just so beautiful to have that, to know that you're never alone, even though sometimes we feel like we've been abandoned. We're not abandoned. We're never going to be abandoned, So I think that is so great.
When you say that, you had to bring that scripture up, because I just felt the presence of God when you said that. I really did. I felt God when you said that, because
that gives me strength. That one gives me the strength of all of them. Yeah. So
before we close out, what would you want to? I know I keep asking, what would you want to say to the women? But when you just said that scripture, I believe you have something to say. When you say this, we can close out to the women that are, or men that are watching, that
Yes.
men that will be watching this. When it come down to God and the seasons that we're in this time and in this world right now, what kind of encouragement?
If you want, you look at God's promises. I mean, God's promises are unbelievable. He says that, do not fear. I'm always with you. You're never alone. You're never alone in anything you do. Just come to me, and I lead the way. And like I said, believing that Christ who strengthens me, He strengthens you every single day. And you
Yes.
just have to tap into that spirit and know that you are loved. You are loved beyond anything. He
Mhm.
loves you as a father, mother, daughter, sister, whatever you are. He loves you to the most, and he'll never. And no matter what you do, he loves you anyway. No matter what, he already knows what you're doing. You can't hide nothing from God. He already knows it, and he already is helping you with it, and that's it. And it's just a wonderful thing to know that you have that kind of power behind you, and having that kind of power behind you, nothing can take you down.
Amen. Amen. You're right. He is a supernatural God, created the stars, the moon, the sun. The sun, they
Right,
know their purpose. They like, we
right,
know when to rise and set.
right.
We know when to sparkle. We know what we're doing. So a God that already have given
Exactly.
the sun purpose.
And what freaks me out, if he takes care of the birds and the animals and everything else, he's taking care of you because you're his number one. You know what I mean? So what do you have to worry about? And it's not what we want. It's basically what he wants. Sometimes we feel like, oh, he's not answering our prayers. But how many times you say, thank God he didn't answer my prayers because that's not where I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to be over here. And he switches you all different directions, but he has you in his palm of his hands. And don't ever forget that.
Yes, yes. Well, I'm glad you were able to share that with us and remind us how good God is and how He's
Yeah.
taking care of us. And even the prayers that we're praying about that seem like they're not being answered, some of them is because He's trying to protect us.
Exactly. It's in his
Yes.
time and not yours. And just keep it going because that's how it's supposed to be. Keep it going and just trust. Trust is a big thing. Trust.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being
Thank
part of
you.
Let's Talk with Danielle podcast. I am so happy. You're gonna have to come back again. We're gonna have to do this again and talk about more topics and get into your book more in depth.
I would love to. That's a promise.
Great. And do you have any events that I forgot to ask you that question? Do you have anything currently going on or will be having anything that you might want to share with the audience?
Not right now. I may in the future now because since COVID is
Yes.
kind of going down a little bit, people
Mhm.
are more apt to get together more now. So
Great.
I was waiting another year to see what was happening with everything. Yeah, but I definitely want to have some more events. Definitely.
Great. When you do, make sure you share it with me and then I can always post it and
Yes.
share it with my viewers on the podcast. All right.
I
Well, you
will.
have a wonderful night. Thank
Thank
you
you
for having
so much, Danielle. You've been a doll. Thank you, and it's been a pleasure being on your show.
me. I'm glad you actually came and made time to come. I know you're pretty busy.
Hey, we make time for what we want to make time for. So I'm glad I came on.
All
Thank
right.
you so much for the invite.
You're welcome. You have
Yeah,
a good
stay
night.
blessed. Okay, bye bye.
Mhm. Thank you guys for watching Let's Talk with Danielle. I hope you guys really enjoyed my guest, Pat, the No Crap Coach. Please go get her book. If even if it's not for you, if you know someone that is kind of going through some things and battling with negative thinking thoughts, and just go ahead and get the book and support her. And I'm glad you guys were tuning in and supporting my podcast. I see the comments, guys. I'm gonna dive into them tonight and look at them and shout out to everyone who came on here. Thank you guys for joining Let's Talk with Danielle. Have a good night.